Ruta de las Flores is basically like different like a towns in El Salvador, indigenous towns. In each town you find like a something magical. When you come to El Salvador, you have to visit. It's like almost like number one. It's at the top.
I have left the capital city to slow down a bit. I'm on a tour in the western mountains of El Salvador. We are checking out the Ruta de las Flores, or Route of the Flowers. The road is roughly 35 kilometers long and connects 6 villages. I'm on a one-day tour, so I won't be able to stop at each one of them, but I should be able to give you a good idea of what this is all about. This promises color and charm, murals and coffee, some of the things that I like best. Let's get to it. The Ruta de las Flores is one of the most astonishingly beautiful journeys in El Salvador. I took a one-day tour out of San Salvador. Honestly, I thought it wouldn't be sufficient to adequately experience the route, but I wanted to give it a try. Obviously, spending more time would be better, but I think we captured the highlights to great effect. Sure, there are flowers along the way, but the journey has so many more elements than that from my perspective. There are indigenous people, markets, churches, coffee, art, history, and tradition. The stops were close together, but each one felt unique. We followed a winding path through the western highlands, moving primarily in a northwestern direction. I had my guide Jocelyn describe the villages where we stopped, beginning with Nahuizalco.
Nahuizalco happened like a big massacre in 1932. An ex-military president decided to kill the indigenous population.
Next up was Salcoatitán.
So Salcoatitán, basically we have the biggest tree, La Ceiba, the name, more than 300 years.
From there, we traveled to Juayúa.
It's very famous for the big church. They have the red color and it's in honor to the massacre of the indigenous people.
There was a stop in Apaneca.
Apaneca is mostly like famous for like coffee. We have the best coffee, very good altitude, around 7,000 feet. So it's like a very good quality.
And we ended in Concepcion de Ataco.
Ataco basically is like a colorful with like a very colorful murals.
This is my day and how I experienced the route. Nahuizalco feels like a doorway into El Salvador's indigenous roots. There's a simple white church situated on a pleasant public square. Just like many other small towns or villages, this is where you start. There were just a few steps to slide into the space where the true heart of this community lies. Vendors fill the streets and command an adjacent structure. They have for sale fruits, vegetables, and handmade goods. It is colorful, it is vibrant, and it seems to be 100% authentic. Most of this is open air. I love that that's the case. There are umbrellas, but this is right out in the fresh air. The products available in the stalls reflect the strong indigenous roots of this village. Jocelyn mentioned the massacre in 1932, where natives of this town and others nearby were targeted and killed by governmental forces. That was meant to suppress identity and to break land claims. It had a massive impact, but as a people, the persecuted survived. There are many smiles today, even as many residents of the village have a shared tragedy in their past. I got to walk through a small portion of this place away from the main square and the market. There was another spot where artisans had space to sell their items. Most of what was here included colorful and traditional clothing. This town was an excellent first stop on the Ruta de las Flores and gave an indication of the authenticity that was ahead. After just a short drive, we landed in Salcoatitán. This is one of the smallest villages on the route. Its prime attraction is the Ceiba tree. The massive trunk and the sprawling canopy indicate that this has been a part of the landscape for a very long time. It is huge. They say this one is 300 years old. It reminds me a lot of the large live oak trees in the low country of South Carolina when I lived there. We spent 10 minutes or so admiring the tree and considering all of the history that has taken place during its lifespan. It wasn't this way in many of the other stops on our route, but we seemed to be the only tour group in the village. I was taken by the artwork that was present here. Numerous tile mosaics are scattered through the streets. They depict scenes and creatures, real and imagined. Even more street art enhanced the walk to the main square. There, we found a small plaza and church across the way.
My guide Jocelyn says that this town is not on the agenda for many of the tours which operate in this area. They say it's too small, there's not that much to see. I'm enjoying it very much though.
It felt like we knew a secret that all of the other tours missed. The name of the village is translated as the City of the Snakes. I did not see a single one. Most of the time that I spent in Juayúa was around the main plaza. It's known as the Central Park. Of note is the fountain at the middle. It was a highlight for me and is the piece around which much of the activity is centered. To the side is the Templo de Señor, the main church in the town. The red accents here are what Jocelyn said commemorate the massacre of indigenous people almost a century ago. I'm told the plaza overflows with activity on the weekends, with vendors and festivals common. It was doing pretty well on the weekday that I visited. There was no doubt that I was present for a special occasion.
I feel massively underdressed. Everyone in the square is looking their best, except maybe for me. But I understand that we just came upon the end of a graduation ceremony. So congratulations to everyone.
Everyone was in such a celebratory mood. Away from the square, I happened upon a market for crafts that extended for a block or so. It was very vivid, and the goods appeared to be of fairly high quality. There was a bit of art adorning the walls along the streets in the village. It was nice, but not as impressive as what we had seen and what was still ahead. The next stop was a departure from our tour of the villages. This is known as Café Albania. It's a center of amusements in the midst of an extensive tract of green space. One of the most famous or popular elements is this slide that people can use to zoom to the bottom of a hill. There are also zip lines and chances to ride bikes or hamster wheels over the wires. It's set up to seem daring, but in a safe environment. Safe for the most part.
You know, in some factories, they have signs on the floor showing how long it's been since someone was hurt on the job. They have the same thing here at the entrance. It has been over 300 days since they've had an accident. I don't know if I should be encouraged by that or not.
I suppose the odds are pretty good that a person will leave the location without a scratch. This site also provides Instagram-friendly backdrops made to share in social media moments. No one seems to know why the place has the Café Albania name. The mountains in western El Salvador are cooler than areas around the capital city. It's a noticeable difference. Because of the elevation and the temperatures, this is an area where coffee can grow. Our tour didn't actually drop into the village of Apaneca, but we stopped at this nearby coffee plantation. Part of the visit included a few moments among the coffee trees. The hook here, though, was being able to sample some of the coffee. Two variants were offered, bourbon and pacamara.
This is probably lost on me a little bit because coffee is usually, for me, a sweetener and cream delivery system. But it's nice to try these two. One is very light, the other is light but flavorful. So I could get used to this.
The more I try coffee without my usual trappings, the more I become accustomed to the inherent flavors. As a coffee fan, it's always appealing to see the trees and the beans, then get to taste the end product in the same location where it was generated. It's also a treat to learn about production in the country where I'm situated at the moment.
At one point, El Salvador was the fourth largest coffee producer in the world. Now, for a variety of reasons, it's consistently in the 20 to 30 range. The emphasis now is on quality and not quantity.
Experiencing the coffee production aspect along the Ruta de las Flores was a pleasant diversion. The village of Concepcion de Ataco is not only the most dazzling town on the route, it's one of the most vibrant in the entire country. Artwork fills the walls along the streets. There are many subjects represented in work. You'll see everything from depictions of indigenous people to figures from the Day of the Dead to cats. As a fan of murals, I was smitten by the village. The cats came first in the artwork, dating back to 2003. In the 20-plus years since then, street art has become the defining feature of this town. It's all impressive, but this piece, just around the corner from the main square, probably gets the most attention. This features the church, the mountains, colorful buildings, and indigenous women.
There is so much artwork on all the walls around the city, but this might be the most spectacular piece. The interesting thing here, this was created only in 2023.
I could have spent hours walking street to street to see all the different murals. It's no surprise that in a town known for its public art, there are a variety of shops offering pieces for sale. Lost amongst the colors and images, the village has all the other usual features: the main park, complete with a central fountain, and the primary church, which in this case was the focal point for another crowd of graduates. It was a single day with so much to see. The land, the people, and the towns of the Ruta de las Flores, all separate but connected as well. No doubt this is one of El Salvador's most rewarding journeys. Thanks to Jocelyn for leading the way, and to Sandra for navigating the winding roads. I'll leave a link to the tour in the description.
What did you think of that? The Ruta de las Flores certainly lived up to expectations for me. Each village possesses unquestionable beauty and a character all its own. What I've shown you is just a taste of what the route has to offer. Hopefully though, what you got from this is that the western part of El Salvador is one part of the country that you do not want to miss. My journey through Central America will last for 2 or 3 more months. Make sure you come back to Old, Alone, and Far From Home to check out more of this spectacular part of the world.